All right, let's begin. My name is Juan Cifuentes, and I'm a cloud endpoint technical specialist. My focus is directly in healthcare, um, and I oversee a range of accounts in the East region. They're all, for the most part, providers, and for the least. And I have a former experience previously working as a Microsoft partner, doing much of engagements in the healthcare industry and deployments around VDI for VMware and Citrix. Very familiar with the overall ecosystem, and as well former Deloitte cybersecurity expert, doing much of a risk assessments analysis on the M365 productivity umbrella. So pleasure to be here. Please feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. We have a link for each of us that are going to be speaking in this event. Pass it on to you, Jesse.
Yeah, thanks, Juan. So Jesse Asman, I'm a modern work specialist. Been with Microsoft here for the last 5 years, essentially covering productivity and collaboration solutions in the Southeast. Also working within our HLS division, so our Health and Life Sciences division, for that entire time as well. Really just assisting customers in adoption and deployment of those solutions, whether it's Outlook, Teams, and what we're talking about today, Windows 365. Thanks.
Can you folks hear me?
We can hear you, Sam.
Great, awesome. Okay, and quick introduction on my side, Sam Tulamat. I'm Principal PM Lead on the Windows 365 and AVD team. I've been at Microsoft for about 10 years and spent a lot of them sort of focused on spaces like enterprise, healthcare, education. And today, my team is responsible for building a lot of the Windows 365 Cloud PC IT experience in Intune, as well as Windows 365 Frontline, which is a product that we've built specifically with a target market like healthcare and other related sectors, which we'll talk about today. So, super excited to be here today and to talk with you all.
Thank you so much, Sam, for joining us. I know it's super early for you, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, usually I'm in the East Coast, but happened that I am actually in the West Coast during this hour. But all good. I'm happy to be here.
Beautiful. No, I'm so pumped that you're able to join us at the same time. All right. So this time is gonna go super fast. So I want to make sure that we're able to capture each of the content that we're gonna deliver. All right. So let's just begin. So the idea of this topic is, again, how to break free from traditional VDI. It's a big topic across the healthcare industry. But before we do that, let's try to leap back in a few years and try to understand if this has maybe happened before, right? Because to some degree, this content is actually very familiar. A long time ago, there used to be a time where we had to build mail servers on premises to scale to support a user demand, right? For those that are familiar with this type of scenario, this is what it used to look like, a mail server on premise, right? Most of those are scary stories about running SMTP, IMAP server, and trying to leverage the scalability of those into multiple locations across data centers, across the globe, right? And building that hybrid routing mail flow architecture to continuously support that user demand. It was very challenging. There was a lot of effort from the team, and inclusive, obviously, not just from the mail team, right? This is what it used to look like, right? And little years go by, and somebody thought about a good idea to put a mail server in the cloud, right? We all know that story. that happened about 14 years ago. Beepos, that was actually the name. For those that are familiar with that name, feel free to comment on the chat, and what it stands for. That was the initial. That was the beginning of everything. And right after Beepos, a year after, Wave 15, that's the first release that made it official, running Exchange Online in the cloud, right? Obviously, this was all very new. Most of the customers were not really ready for this transition, or even to position. There were so many questions about data, resiliency, compliance, HIPAA, and the list goes on, right? And it was just a very challenging topic. Moving forward now, in 2024, 90%, if not all, most of customers are running mail in the cloud, right? So this is what it looks like now. Exchange Online, now that doesn't mean that you can't run mail server still on premise, right? Question comes, why? Why should I? Why? Everything that we do nowadays, it becomes is tailored to simplicity, right? And everything that we do, where the car that we drive, the stuff that we buy, in our work, in our education, in our daily lives, everything is towards simplicity, right? And that's essentially how this became. There's the ease of mobility and agility that brings Exchange Online when positioning and giving a license to a user and giving a mailbox to be able to send and receive mail. Very simple, very easy. You don't have to worry about anything that used to be about 20 years ago. So with that in mind, let's try to understand what does it take, to deal with traditional VDI. Now, for those that are very familiar with traditional VDI, this won't be a surprise. But for those that are not, this is actually very important, because you need to understand, how deep is this topic. Now, in traditional VDI, you have multiple audiences, right? And each of those audiences are dedicated Windows experience that are built specifically for a specific use case, scenario, right? This could be divided and broken into some that are persistent and not persistent experience. And this could align to, some people that are working within in-house and some remotely or on the go. So like in this case, we have some of the clinician stuff and non-clinician. Again, this is for the healthcare world. So, please mind, for the industry, but it's very relevant to other industries. Now, behind these tools, there's a set of a backbone that supports this experience, right? Most of the time, it's going to be the same. We can never have enough domain controllers. We can never have enough application management servers that are running, and obviously roaming profiles to support the user redirection and for the user data. Now, along all this, there's going to be the virtualization control plane that you're using to deliver this Windows experience, right? And all that is still wouldn't be anything without having your set of layers. You're going to have a network layer, a server management layer, a provisioning layer, a configuration manager layer. And I think this part is one of the most key things when it comes to VDI, and it's the hypervisors. See, the hardware part is what limits us do multiple things in VDI. You can't just choose the best of the best hypervisor when it comes to hardware or from any different provider. You need to have some sort of CPU family alignment in between. So, things that allow you to do migration in between these VMs from one side to another. In the case of a DR or a failover, right? So it's very important to rely on those hypervisor CPU family. Now, obviously, you can have a thick layer of continuous scanning on these hypervisors, because you're gonna complicate the user experience delivering those Windows machines. So most of the time you're gonna have agentless solutions. Now, with all that, nothing will be possible without our virtual storage appliance, right? Which supports this overall experience. Now, for how long we'll be doing this? We've been doing it for so long. And, myself, I used to deploy this. So I'm very familiar. This is, I hope that is still the same case for most of them. But it's been the way, for X amount of years. Now, with that in mind, there's also growth, right? There's also growth where there's continuous increase in demand based on those users' locations. Now, remember that, people are working from many different locations. They're increasing the hybrid work. They're becoming more empowered to use personal devices, and new branches, new acquisitions are coming up. So it's only normal, to see more failover or DR events require, to mimic the same VDI experience to a different location. Now, at the same time, you need to account for the latency for each of those new user demand regions that are being aligned to, right? That creates a separate set of resources that need to be dedicated to support, design, maintain, monitor the same experience. So at the same time, the complexity is only going to continue to increase, right? And it's all completely fine but it's a big piece of work that you need to maintain. Now, this is very similar to mail servers. If you again, back to that story, it's very similar to the sense that you need to support so much, and you need to scale, to support that demand. Now, you might ask, okay, so this is so great. You're not really teaching me anything new. I already know this. How does Windows 365 can help me solve these problems and help me free up from sort of that traditional VDI experience that I've been dealing for the last 20 years? So I want you to focus on some of the blue areas I'm going to show you here in the desktop of the future. The desktop of the future should be, for each of our customers, the focus should be under the Windows 365 Admin Center control plane, right? This bar here should be your main focus. And the way that you're going to build it is you're still going to be accounting the user personas, the scenarios that you're trying to tailor the Windows experience individually. But instead, you're going to be using cloud PCs to deliver that experience in between provisioning policies. And the idea behind it is that some will be falling under the frontline provisioning policies, and some will be enterprise. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about enterprise and frontline in just a bit, but that's essentially what will dictate in between the experience, the two. Now, you might ask, what about the rest? Well, the rest is going to come along, but there's a lot of automation in the back that we don't want you to focus on. We want you to focus on the big picture, right? It's all still going to be applicable to some degree, but there's less work that you need to align for. Again, trying to sustain and support that user demand is going to keep increasing from multiple locations. There's a lot of automation that's going to allow you to succeed much faster. So, for instance, gallery images that you deploy for these cloud PCs are going to be aligned to the same experience to have the same apps baked into those machines. You don't have to do anything. While at the same time, they'll be automatically joined and enrolled into Intune or into Microsoft Entra. Whether the experience is ID or hybrid, or you're planning to use your configuration manager with continuous Windows updates in a dedicated experience, dedicated resources, dedicated compute, dedicated, scalable storage. All this with a reporting mechanism and a monitoring dashboard available through endpoint analytics. Now, at the same time, with the option to be network scalable to support multiple scenarios, whether it's in an isolated environment or just directly injecting your Azure network into the mix or bringing your on-premise network. Now, all this will be surprising for some, but it's all running underneath Azure Virtual Desktop. It's our service backbone that makes this experience, easier. If you think for a second, when the BPOS experience was released in 2010, it was the same Exchange server that was running on premise, that customers were running on premise, right? But it was running in the cloud. And all this with multiple areas, multiple data center regions available across the globe, available for you to pick and choose to try to bring that latency experience closer to the region where the user is located. So what does this mean? Essentially, we have most of customers that are running probably most likely here, right? This is where most likely they are located in traditional VDI. This is probably you, maybe you're somewhere in here, maybe, who knows? But essentially what you have is an opportunity. And we want to empower, with knowledge, with awareness on how Microsoft vision is to tailor the desktop of the future and how to support that experience, right? And what you want to be doing is that you always want to be able to see and leverage some of those use cases that are going to be arising, and maybe think, is this the right moment to invest into a different approach? Should I look into Cloud PC where I can just focus on the identity and the Windows experience that I'm transmitting to my users and remove all this responsibility that I'm currently today responsible and shift it to Microsoft, right? Make Microsoft responsible for all the experience that I'm pushing to my users. That's an option. And that's essentially what we're trying to, want to build awareness. The power of what Cloud PC is bringing, and the areas of improvement that will help to ease of that transition. Now, how complex is Windows 365 architecture? It's very complex, but again, there's a lot that happens in the back end, right? That you don't need to do. It just happens automatically. And there's a lot of integration that might happen as well that you can add into it. Now, is that what is all about Cloud PC? Is Cloud PC very simple? Like I said, it's just a dedicated resource that follows you around wherever you go. It's a Cloud PC that belongs to you. We have two licensing models, and I'm gonna try to spin up and a little faster because we had a few more slides to cover. But we have two licensing models. We have the enterprise model, which is a one-to-one, right? Just like Exchange Mailbox, that you assign it to your user and it's owned by the user. 24/7 available, that Cloud PC that user can access at any given time. Now think of your people that are working remotely or working from a BYOPC device. Those will benefit from this at one-to-one. But now we also have the frontline license. Frontline license is more tailored, for those people that don't need access 24/7, or that X amount of hours, shift workers that most likely will benefit from a 1-to-3 ratio. Essentially, you pay for one license and you get 3 Cloud PCs. It's the way that this works is in a concurrent session. So you only consume the number of concurrent sessions that are connected to the Cloud PCs. Still, both of the models are flat rate cost, so you have a predictable pricing as you move along. We have a number of SKUs available across all this, available for enterprise and frontline, from level 1 all the way to our latest enterprise vGPU. And as far as hybrid working scenarios, I always try to think that it resembles based on what it is tailored to you. So most of this will probably be very common, right? Like the merger and acquisition, vendors and contractors. But I always want to think that the Cloud PC will empower users to make things easier and faster, to be more productive on day one. There's also some use cases that are aligned to healthcare, where shift workers will benefit, or also nurses that are traveling from multiple locations, telehealth, call centers. So those are things to keep in mind, about Windows 365. I'm going to pass it off now to Jesse.
All right, thanks, Juan. Just wanted to provide some additional independent resources here based upon some research that have been done by other organizations. So just on the left side here, some more information from Gartner, just in regards to desktop as a service and where Microsoft sits in the industry. Of course, we've been making investments for quite some time and will continue to do so. And so I think this just leads some credibility and credence to where we are with desktop as a service. And then on the right, what we're looking at is the Forrester Total Economic Impact. This was done by taking information, interviews with multiple representatives, aggregating that data, and then, sort of combining it into to some data to provide to customers just on the business impact of desktop as a service. You can see here that, by 2026, 80% of organizations will be purchasing desktop as a service and managing those solutions compared to 20% today. And probably the main thing I'd want you to take away from this is just looking at some of the summary of benefits here, the IT cost savings for employees, the increased productivity for power users, the cost savings through, initiating a BYO PC strategy within your organization. And then here, just some reinforcement on that business value, cost predictability, business and user agility. In the current HLS, the current healthcare industry, what we're seeing is that whether it's clinicians, remote workers, contractors, we're starting to see very transient work groups, right? They may be around for 2 to 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, but that employee and where they're working and their time with the organization continues to shift and change. So having that fast onboarding process for new employees, being able to bring them on quickly, being able to initiate and bring on that BYO PC strategy really helps user agility and organizational adaptability. And then also improve security posture. Juan talked on that a little bit, just about some of the embedded security capabilities that are there with Windows 365. Now, we know this is a journey, and we are definitely here to assist and help you along the way. Two things I want to mention here very quickly. There are trials available for Windows 365. Your Microsoft representative can definitely help you with that. But then in conjunction with a Windows 365 trial, we are also investing in your adoption, your deployment of the solution through our strategic partners. And they are there to assist you, whether it's with some of that initial setup with things like, whether it's capabilities like Intune or code management, or growth and going beyond that, things like setting up a custom image for when users log into their PC. And it's there to assist from, that initial deployment adoption stage all the way up into, Microsoft investing in you, taking on new use cases and validating those use cases. And then last little calls to action here, definitely give us feedback. Let us know some things that you may want to discuss more or see more when it comes to Windows 365 and desktop as a service. Also, if you're not aware of who your Microsoft representative is, if you want to be contacted, let us know. We'll find your representative for you. And then lastly, stick with us through this morning. This is the first of multiple sessions, just to give you an overview of Windows 365, but we're going to go deeper throughout the day.
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate it. That was wonderful. I'm going to pass it now to Sam so he can share some of the latest upcoming news that are coming to Windows 365.
Thanks, Juan. I'm going to share my screen real quick just because I'm having trouble with the main slides here. So just real quick here. So I think Juan talked very quickly about Windows 365 Frontline, but I want to add a couple of things for you all. So when we launched Windows 365 at first, we were really focused on a lot of the time these information worker scenarios, basically people who worked that 9 to 5 schedule, maybe work at 9 to 5 and then come back and do some email. And so we ended up really designing the enterprise license with that in mind. You buy it and it's licensed for one user, and it's available for them all the time. As we started, talking to more customers and getting more adoption, we started realizing that there's actually a lot of other types of usage scenarios that customers have. And the other thing that kind of surfaced for us is really shift worker, people who are on the machine at a specific time. They're on it for a significant amount of time, but they may have a rotating schedule. And so you can see that kind of usage pattern here, and you're very familiar with it in healthcare. There's a lot of it in healthcare. And so the other usage pattern as well that came across to us is more of someone who's going to be doing a task on the machine for a very brief period of time. So a good example of that would be like if you're talking about a shift worker, it could be someone who is at the call center on a machine for 6-7 hours a day, and then they finish their shift, someone else comes in. And then in a task worker here, from the way we've seen it, is could be anybody who's, if you're thinking about it in the hospital, medical assistant, just logging in very briefly, putting those vitals and logging out. So our vision has been to service for all these types of scenarios. And what we've done with Windows 365 Frontline so far is we really focused on that shift worker persona initially by introducing that 1 to 3 license model and the concurrency that Juan has talked about. We really made Cloud PC more affordable for these types of scenarios, so that it actually makes sense for you to pay for it, because now you're actually paying for that max concurrent sessions and you're getting that 1 to 3. But you're still giving each one of these users their own Cloud PC that's not going to be on all the time, just on when they're needed. As we go forward, we're looking basically to also expand Windows 365 Frontline to make sure that we also are available for these task worker scenarios. And that's one of the biggest things that we are working on going forward in the next 6 months to a year. And we really see that as very much the scenario where we're going to start thinking very significantly about a lot of the healthcare clinical stations types of scenarios. And so, as I said, the 1 to 3 model today, you're paying for those active Cloud PC sessions, and we give you 3 times that. But as we go forward, when we think about the task worker scenario, we're going to continue basically allowing you to pay for those concurrent sessions, but also potentially share resources more so that you can get more task workers for lower cost. And so this is for the task worker scenarios. The type of scenario that we're thinking about is people who are on an air station, accessing very quickly, being able to log in really quickly, and log out. And that's really, as I said, the big focus for us on the roadmap today. So really briefly, not a lot to cover for today, but just so that the main takeaway that I want you to have is Frontline as it is today in the market, you're going to be able to get that 1 to 3 and be able to really enable it for shift worker scenarios where the person can benefit from having their own machine, but not on all the time, so can make it more affordable. And then as we go forward in the next 6 months, 12 months, what we're working on is more features to enable for that task worker, that fast login, and other types of requirement that comes with that specifically. Thank you, Juan.
No, this was amazing, Sam. I think this a lot of the audience will benefit from those news that you share. We're just a little bit over the time, 1 minute over, but I think it went great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Just keep in mind that we'll have this recording available, uploaded to YouTube. Follow the webinar, for all the agenda, everything, all the links, the blog. There will be a blog for this content that we're delivering today that will be released later on today or tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.